Hi guys, it's Zhang with Moolahwise.com, and in today's video I wanted to be answering this question of how using a floor and cap with actual real numbers from the S&P 500 rates of return over the last 20 years. In today's video I'll be showing you which index you can link your cash value to if you decide to save in a Transamerica IUL. And when I say IUL, I just mean Index Universal Life Insurance. And when I say cash value, guys, just remember that I'm referring to the savings component of your cash value life insurance. Also, just a reminder that every IUL provider has different indexes that you can link your cash value to. But today we're just going to cover the Transamerica IUL only. Then I'll show you an Excel sheet that my colleague made to illustrate how your money grows using a floor and cap. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, I wanted to point out that the interest earned from these indexes are not actually in the market. I know many people think that an IUL is just an index mutual fund inside of an insurance policy, which is simply not true. The insurance company just uses the index that you're linked to credit your interest for that segment. So for instance, if the index that your cash value is linked to, again, it's not in the market, it's linked to or mirroring, is say at 9 or 10%, then guess what? You'll get 9 or 10% on your cash value. However, if the index your cash value is linked to or mirroring, right, is say down -8, -9, or -10%, then your money is safe from the downside because of the floor protection. But in return for providing your money with this floor protection, the insurance company gets to keep anything above the cap. So think of the cap as like the max you can get. It's a fair trade, I think. So in a Transamerica IUL, you can link your cash value to two indexes. The first index is what we call the global index. And inside the global index is a blend of three indexes. The first index is the S&P 500, which just stands for the Standards and Poor, and it's just a index that tracks the 500 largest cap equities in the USA, or said differently, it just tracks the 500 largest companies in the USA. Usually when people say, quote unquote, the market, how well the market is doing, they're referring to the S&P 500 index. Also, this is a good barometer of how the USA economy is doing since it's tracking the largest 500 companies in the USA. The second index inside of the global index is the Euro Stock 50. In the Euro Stock 50, it just tracks the 50 largest cap stock from the leading blue chip companies in the European market. And then the third is the Hang Seng index, which just tracks the performance of the Hong Kong. So the global index is a blended rate of three indexes. 50% of the weight is from the S&P 500 or the Euro Stock 50, whichever is higher. The next 30% of that weight is from the S&P 500 or the Euro Stock 50, whichever one is lower. So you could think of it as between the S&P 500 and Euro 50, whichever index is performing higher at the moment, you get 50% of the weight, and whichever is the lower of the two indexes, you get 30% of the weight. Then at the last 20% comes from the Hang Seng index. The pro and the downside of linking your cash value to the global index is that your floor is at 0.75% and the cap is at 15%. So think of a floor and cap as like a border. So as long as the index that is linked to is inside of these borders, you will get a rate of return. If it isn't, then the insurance gets to keep it or protects you from that negative. So now that you know how the global index is made of, let's explore the differences of linking to an S&P 500 versus the global. So the second index you can link your cash value to is the S&P 500. If you link your cash value to the S&P 500, then 100% of the rate of return will come from the rate of return of the S&P 500 for that segment or for that year. The pro and downside of linking to an S&P 500 is that the floor is at 0.75% and the cap is at 13.75%. So let's see what it looks like using real rates of returns going back to the year 2002. So first we got to actually find what those rates were, right? So go to Google and just type in Transamerica Index at a glance. And when you see this brochure, click on this first brochure. So in this brochure, when you click on it, it explains the two indexes that your cash value can be linked to. The first one is being the S&P 500. If you choose this index, then 100% of the cash value will be mirroring or linked. Again, not in the market, but actually just mirroring or linked. They're just using these index as a way to credit your interest, if that makes sense. And then the next the index that you can link to is the global index. And these are the blended rates that I shared with you earlier. So first, let's look at the S&P 500. And don't worry, guys, if you're not a numbers guy, don't let the numbers overwhelm you. I'll explain every single thing. Okay, so think of these as year 2002. So it goes all the way back from year 2002 all the way to year 2021. So think of it as the one in the middle, the middle column is just the rate of that given year. Okay, so in 2002, you would have gotten negative 23.37, and then but your floor would have been 0.75%. So if you think about it, think of it this way. So in year 2006, right, the S&P 500 yielded 11.65%. You would have been credited 11.65% inside of your cash value. But in year 2008, right, when the market went to negative 38.49%, you would have been credited positive 0.75%. So I always ask my families that we serve, right, would you rather get negative 38.49% or a positive 0.75% in year 2008, right? Yeah, so comment below, what would you rather have, negative 38.49% or a positive 0.75%? And then if you just scroll down to the bottom, this is just the 20-year average of these rates, right? So this is just the 20-year average without the floor and cap. These rates are without floor and cap. This one is with a floor and cap, and as you can see, the floor and cap yields a higher average. Okay, but let's see what it looks like when we actually input these numbers into an Excel sheet and see what it looks like on how it affects the growth of my money. Okay, so let's go to the global index, right? So global index, so these are the rates from the global index from the last 20 years going back to 2002. So if your cash value is linked to the S&P 500, so next is the global index. So in the global index is a little bit more complex to compute your rate of return using only the S&P 500. So for instance, the same example in the S&P 500 in the year 2006, your S&P 500 would have yielded you 11.65%, while the Euro Stock 50 would have yielded you 15.88% and a 36.59%. Again, remember guys, the global index is a blended rate, a blended of the Hang Seng, Euro Stock 50, and the S&P 500. And that blended rate would have given you 18.75%, which, you know, obviously, which is capped at 15%. But in 2008, right, the S&P 500 would have yielded you negative 38.49%. The Euro Stock 50 would have yielded you negative 41.55%. And the Hang Seng would have yielded you negative 45.42%, which is a average, which yielded a weighted average of, negative 40.79%, which gave you a 0.75%. So again, would you rather get negative 40.79% or a positive 0.75%? And similarly, if you scroll down to the bottom, it's just the 20-year average look back. Okay, so this is what the average is for these rates without the floor and cap, and this is the first three columns is the average rates of these rates without the floor and cap. Okay, and then in the fourth column, it's the average of this weighted rate, and then this number is the average of the floor and cap. So let's see what it looks like when you actually put these numbers into an Excel sheet and see how it grows, how your money grows with it. Okay, So this is the Excel sheet that I mentioned earlier. So in the first, this is just your initial contribution, and think of this as that year. And then in the next column is the year, the rate of return for that year. And then in the next column is what you gained or lost based on that rate of return. And in the last column is the balance. So what they did was they just added or subtracted in this column to the balance. And in the first year, what they did was they just took the previous balance, okay? Previous balance. And then he just carried that calculation all the way down to the bottom. And then at the bottom is your amount that you would have before you pay Uncle Sam his cut. So if you're in the 20% tax bracket, this is what you end up with cash in hand. So and so forth with the 25 and the 30% respectively. The blue side is the money, what your money will look like if there's no flooring cap. Okay, so on the orange side, it's the same formula, right? Where he took the rate of return of that year. So the rate of return of that year, added it or subtracted it to the balance of the previous year. In the first year, it just added or subtracted the initial amount. Then you carried this formula down all the way down to 2021, right? Also on this side, since you're saving money inside of a life insurance program, then all this growth would be tax-free. We added a death benefit of $1 million because we always get this question from families we serve. What happens to my cash value when I pass on? And the answer is that your heirs will get the cash value plus the death benefit. So we just added $1 million to the balance of your cash value column because your heirs will get your cash value if you don't use it before you die. Okay, now that we've explained the chart, let's add in some numbers and see what it looks like. But so this is the first one is the S&P 500, and how you can tell is because the cap is at 13.75, and then in the next example you'll see the global at 15%. But let's see what it looks like when you add in some numbers. So let's say hypothetically you had $100,000 to start with. 100,000 to start with, and then you invested it in 2002, starting in 2002. Let's see what it looks like after 20 years. Okay, so at the end of year 2021, you would end up with 414,000 before paying Uncle Sam. And after you paid Uncle Sam his cut, you're left with 331,000 if you're in the 20% tax bracket. You'll end up with 311,000 if you're in the 25% tax bracket, and you would end up with 290,000 if you're in the 30% tax bracket. Now let's see what it looks like on the orange side with the floor and cap on your money. You can see that you would end up with $527,000 cash in hand because you're, again, remember guys, you're saving money inside of a life insurance program. So once you save money inside of a life insurance program, Uncle Sam says that you get to keep it all in there tax-free. Once you distribute the money, it's tax-free. So would you rather have 290,000 cash in hand, or would you rather have $527,000 cash in hand? Then once you add the $1 million death benefit, would you rather have 290,000 cash in hand to your family, or 1.5 million cash in hand to your family? Comment below on which you rather give to your surviving family. Now let's see what it looks like when you use the global index rates of return instead of the S&P 500 rates of return. So same thing, we're just gonna add 100,000 starting in 2002. You can see that you would ended up with 552,000 cash in hand. Because remember, you guys are saving money in a life insurance program, so you won't have to pay a capital gains tax. So would you rather have 290,000 or 552,000 cash in hand to your family? Then once you add in the $1 million death benefit, would you rather have 290,000 or 1.5 million cash in hand to your family? Comment below on what you rather have to your family. So as you can see, as you can see the side without the floor and cap, the blue side, is similar to a roller coaster. I like the roller coaster analogy, but not on my money. The reason I bring that up is because if you look at the year 2008, your balance would have been at 78,000, which would have required you 4 years plus to just get back to what you would have had at the end of 2007. While on the green side, right, your the side with the floor and cap, your money is consistently growing every single year without any negatives to overcome. So as you can see in this hypothetical example, with a floor and cap strategy, it can help you grow your money more effectively because it is consistently growing no matter what the market is doing. While on the side without the floor and cap, your money has to come back from a negative position, just to neutralize the loss that it occurred or that it took. And if you so that's all. That's the end of our presentation. If you like the floor and cap strategy, then I suggest owning an IUL because it's one of the saving vehicles that utilizes the floor and cap strategies. And I hope you guys learn how powerful using a floor and cap can be on your money. And guys, we have a mission of educating 1 million families on how money works, and we can't get there without your help. It is our fiduciary responsibility to teach the next generation on how money works, and because this stuff was never taught to us. So if you like what you see, please comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we could achieve our mission of helping 1 million families get financial literacy. If you have any questions about life insurance or IUL, or want me to design a life insurance program for you and your family, please reach out to me at info@moolahwise.com or learn more at moolahwise.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.